The Adams Archive.
The biggest leak since 2011 of U.S. military documents. This says, and this comes from The Hill, the biggest leak of classified documents in a decade created a sprawling crisis in Washington this week as records detailed alleged U.S. spying on allies, insights into American thinking on the war in Ukraine, and at least two neutral companies mulling plans to support Russia. Pentagon officials are still reviewing the documents for validity, and the Justice Department is overseeing a criminal investigation of the leak. At least one of the documents containing casualty estimates appeared to have been altered, but it's unclear how many of the roughly 100 records were manipulated. In those documents that they're saying were altered, which you got to remember when we go back to the Ghost of Kiev and how much propaganda has gone into the war going on in Ukraine, you have to remember how much propaganda has gone into this. So I don't think it's compelling to immediately write off some of these comparisons, and they don't seem that far off. The comparison said that there was for every Ukrainian soldier or for every Russian soldier that died, 4 Ukrainian soldiers died, which to me just makes sense with how large Russia's military force is compared to Ukraine's, even despite the amount of help that they were getting from other NATO countries. This goes on to say that the documents have circulated online since March and probably as early as January before picking up attention last week after a New York Times report. There are many more documents to come, but the leak has already done a lot of damage, forcing crucial U.S. allies to respond in what has become an arguably embarrassing incident for Washington and the United States. Here are the 7 biggest revelations in this document so far. Now, this is the 7 biggest revelations that The Hill is willing to come out and say. Now, as a reminder, The Hill came out and called Robert Kennedy Jr. an anti-vaxxer in its opening headline. So I believe that The Hill has gone more left-leaning and more state media than they were prior. We saw that after they got rid of one of their more notable anchors who was prominent in speaking out against some of these types of things. But here are the top 7 things that they called this out as. And that's not to say that maybe there's more to come or that they're hiding some of these things. But here they are. Ukraine air defenses system in peril. Munitions for Soviet era air defense, say Soviet era air defense systems deployed by Ukraine will soon run out, potentially imperiling Kiev in the war against Russia. They basically have 3 weeks worth of munitions left for 89% of Ukraine's air defenses, is what these documents leaked and said. The next thing that checks off the list here is Pentagon casts doubt on Ukraine's spring counteroffensive. Ukraine is expected to launch a major counteroffensive this spring, but the U.S. is doubting Kiev's ability to retake significant territory, a top secret document says. It goes on to have the next one as U.S. intel on Russia could now be compromised. The documents also contain information about Russia's forces in Ukraine, which the U.S. obtained through intelligence gathering. All the buzz surrounding the leak is likely to lead to a crackdown in Moscow on communications intercepts and internal leaking. Now, these types of leaks, I don't know if I'm exactly like waving my arm at as a great thing. This seems to be embarrassing for the United States. This does not seem to be helpful to the United States in any which way. I'm not pro-Ukraine and I'm not pro-Russia. I'm anti against this entire war and definitely anti against NATO encroaching on this war to start to send our children to war for this. But I do not think that this is like a positive win. This isn't like WikiLeaks coming out and saying that they were spying on us. You know, it's not against our government in a way that is helpful to the American people. This is just potentially hurtful in our military efforts. It goes on to say that the next one is South Korea was concerned about supplying munitions to the U.S. It pointed to potential U.S. spying on South Korea, a major ally in the Indo-Pacific. So this document came out and said that we were spying in South Korea. And the leaked papers said South Korea was open to supplying the U.S. with artillery shells to replenish American stocks, but privately. Seoul was concerned about the munitions being diverted to Ukraine. So even South Korea was concerned that if they helped the U.S. by supplying us with stuff, that we would just give it right back to Ukraine. It said that a significant number of U.S. leaked documents were forged, citing a recent conversation between the defense chiefs from both nations. It goes on to say that Egypt secretly planned to supply Russia with rockets. Now, the problem with this is that Egypt has been a historical ally of the United States. So to hear that they were secretly planning to support Russia is a pretty pressing issue for us, right? And we're starting to see that, who's drawing the line here, right? Egypt's pushing more towards Russia. China and Russia just decided to stop trading in the USD for oil. We're starting to see the line be drawn in the sand, and we're starting to see countries taking sides. And that to me is a pretty concerning thing to see, right? And even the UAE agreed to work with Russian spy agents against the UK and the US, which again, primarily been a partner in the Middle East for us, now maintaining close ties with Russia. So as we see things start to heat up, this document is not helpful for the United States. It's not helpful for the United citizenship. It's sad to see that this has come out. I'm not against things being leaked, but in this matter, I'm not just like rooting that all of this military intelligence got leaked. I don't think that it's helpful.
The Adams Archive.